Well, I told you so's don't get much bigger than this. Ironheart has finally been inflicted on the world after gathering dust in the Marvel vault for the better part of 3 years, and by golly, I can see why they tried so hard to bury this thing. Having suffered through the first 3 episodes now, I can confidently say that this is by far the worst thing Marvel have ever produced in nearly 20 years of MCU history.
Alright, let's start this over.
Well, I told you so's don't get much bigger than this. Ironheart has finally been inflicted on the world after gathering dust in the Marvel vault for the better part of 3 years, and by golly, I can see why they tried so hard to bury this thing. Having suffered through the first 3 episodes now, I can confidently say that this is by far the worst thing Marvel have ever produced in nearly 20 years of MCU history. And damn man, that's up against some pretty stiff competition by this point. A cringe-inducing calamity of a show drenched in identity politics that have aged worse than Mickey Rourke's face. Weighed down by hammy acting and nonsensical dialogue, a protagonist who's willing to lie, cheat and steal just to repeat something that's already been done decades ago, a moral compass that changes depending on who it's applied to, and characters so obnoxiously cliched and stereotypical that they feel like a parody of corporate social justice programs. In short, Ironheart is a creative, logical, and probably financial disaster, and the worst possible thing that could happen to Marvel in a year when it's already staring down the barrel of 3 high-profile flops.
You are the worst thing
Let's
that
get this
happened
over
to
with
Marvel.
quick, because I don't want to waste any more time on this trash than I absolutely have to. So the show picks up with nobody's favourite character, Riri Williams, a grad student at MIT who's been busted helping other students cheat on their exams for money. Riri's angry because she wants more resources to make Iron Man tech available to everyone and become even more famous than Tony Stark, who apparently only succeeded because he was a billionaire. What the fuck? You've already been given a free scholarship at the most prestigious university in the entire country and 4 years of funding to construct your very own Iron Man suit, and that's still not enough for you? Do you realize how many people would literally kill to be in your position right now? Do you realize how fucking ridiculously arrogant and entitled this makes you look? Also, I hate to break it to you, sweetheart, but there's a very obvious reason why Iron Man suits aren't widely available in this world, and if you stop to think about it for just a second, I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out too.
Do it. Make it. Do it.
Anyway, when Riri rightfully gets expelled for causing massive property damage and subverting the school exam system, she does the logical thing and steals the Iron Man suit that she already built with university funding and takes it for herself. Son of a... You know, for a show that's all about challenging racial stereotypes, you're really not sending out the message you think you are with this one. Anyway, back home in Chicago, she clones her own brain to make an AI for the suit, which I guess is something you can just do now, and it somehow morphs into her dead friend Natalie, who got killed in a drive-by shooting years earlier.
Asshole!
How exactly can I describe Natalie? Well, imagine Jarvis, but now he's an insufferable twat with the personality of an abrasive teenage girl from the hood who constantly fucks things up for the main character.
Gotta have conflict.
I just can't, man. Fuck. Anyway, Riri's trying to scrape together enough money to repair her suit. Life is hard when you actually have to work and pay for stuff, isn't it? When she's approached by a guy named Parker, who offers the chance to join his ethnically and sexually diverse criminal gang, including this, unique individual. What even is this show, man? In return for using her Iron Man suit to help them steal from people, she'll get all the money and resources she needs. And because stealing and breaking the law is only bad if other people do it, Riri immediately accepts his offer. Like, you realize you could just take this kind of technology to any major tech firm in the country and they'd give you so much cash you could swim in it, right? Or how about Wakanda? They seem like they'd be more than happy to have someone of your talents on boards. But nah, it's better to throw your hand in with a bunch of retarded criminals you've never even met before, led by a man so obviously shady he's literally wearing a villain's pantomime cape, on the vague promise of financial rewards later. What, are you retarded? Oh yeah, and she also hooks up with a black market arms dealer who for some reason is a total pussy that immediately caves into her demands, gives her everything she wants, and acts like a complete simp for the rest of the show.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Oh my goodness, what are the chances that the one and only white guy in this show would turn out to be a completely submissive pussy? This stuff just writes itself, doesn't it? Anyway, they complete their first heist together, but Riri starts to get suspicious of Parker and begins to question the mysterious hood he's always wearing, which triggers a chain reaction of mistrust, revelations, and revenge that threatens to tear the gang apart. But will Riri be able to stop Parker and free him from the control of the hood, or will his dark powers destroy all of them? The answer, of course, is who the fuck cares? Watching the first 3 episodes of this absolute dross was like some weird exercise in self-flagellation. It truly is something unique in the MCU, combining the worst aspects of everything we've come to hate about this franchise. The pandering and heavy-handed racial politics of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the trite and predictable girl bossing of the Marvels and Wakanda Forever, the moral flexibility of Black Widow, where doing horrible things is just fine if you happen to tick the right diversity boxes, and the cringe-inducing attempts at humour of, well, everything they've done since Endgame, really. This thing makes Robin in the Hood look like a masterpiece of urban fantasy. Parker's gang is the most laughable collection of hapless retards I've seen assembled on screen since Zack Snyder last made a movie. Riri has all the charm and likability of Rachel Zegler, only without the singing ability. The show even makes a point of her not wanting to diss Tony Stark, implying that she actually could and should verbally destroy him, but chooses not to in her magnanimous wisdom. And fuck me, I don't know what kind of humiliation ritual Hollywood's putting Alden Ehrenreich through after Solo, but it can't possibly be worth it to appear in trash like this. His character is eventually revealed to be the son of Obadiah Stane from the first Iron Man, because of course he is, but he doesn't want to follow in his dad's footsteps, which is why he's become a black market arms dealer. Wait, what? Also, you can absolutely tell this show was commissioned during a very different time in American culture, from the murals of dead community members, to the Black Lives Matter posters, to the constant reminders that things are just so much harder for people like Riri because of how she was born. It's actually kinda crazy now to think that stuff like this was once shockingly close to becoming the norm in cinema. But that was then, and this is now, and the cultural zeitgeist has well and truly moved on, leaving behind shows like Ironheart as dated relics of a time most people would rather forget. If there's anyone from Marvel who happens to be watching this video and you're wondering why all your new projects are failing and your franchise is falling apart, well, the answer is right here in front of you. It's because of shit like Ironheart. Preachy, unimaginative, derivative, low-effort crap, recycling ideas that have already been done far better, only with a DEI paint job slathered all over it. It's the very worst of everything audiences dislike about your brand now, and it's the reason you're probably going to have 3 failed movies in a row this year. I don't know what it would have cost to shit-can Ironheart Forever, but trust me, it absolutely would have been worth it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
You suck ass. Okay,
and there is an initiative that has been aiming to fight back against a lot of these practices that I think really need some big overhaul. And it's
it's consumer protection laws. This is effectively what this initiative is, at its very core, is consumer rights advocacy. It's not about video games. It's not about Ubisoft. It's not about what's in a terms of service of a video game or not. It's really about consumer rights and people having the ability to choose what's going to happen with their own stuff.
Initiative that I think a lot of you are probably very familiar with. It's called Stop Killing Games.
That would be a good thing.
And I've followed it since its inception. I've talked about it on stream quite a few times.
So have I.
No, this is my first video going over it.
Oh.
And I regret that now because I see it wasn't going as well as I thought it was. Admittedly, I didn't follow...
I think it's gone very well. I'll be real, like almost 500,000 signatures is a tremendous success.
But for those that don't know anything about Stop Killing Games, I'm going to let him explain it in his own words, that way you can get an actual, correct, informed explanation of what the initiative is. And the reason I say it like that, kind of like fucking all, pinky out, snooty, is because a lot of people don't even really know what this is because of people like Pirate Software completely misrepresent.
Oh! Oh, jeez. They bringing them up. Uh-oh.
Representing what the initiative was.
As a refresher, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement to stop publishers from effectively destroying video games they have already sold to customers.
Yeah.
I'll pause right there. The simplest, bare bones, birthday suit, butt-ass naked
Easy.
explanation
Simple.
for what this is. Stop destroying things.
The initiative for Stop Killing Games is to serve the purpose of stopping companies from killing games. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
That people have paid money to own.
Yeah, okay.
I think that is a very understandable, very reasonable take. Very agreeable. Now I want to quickly jump to a different spot in this video because I think it's important to have this in the beginning because it's something a lot of people have heard that comes from someone that is just wrong about it. It's the Pirate Software portion. Ross is addressing the video Pirate Software made many months ago.
I remember watching this.
Ross even says that he didn't plan on doing that because he didn't want to be seen as using this for drama farming because it would start to make the movement look less of like a legitimate initiative and more of just like drama slop content type thing. But he finally starts talking about Pirate Software here because it's at the end of the life cycle of this initiative and it's not looking promising, so he's willing to do anything to try and set the record straight and hopefully start getting more momentum back to the movement because the damage Pirate Software did to it through his video was substantial.
And I remember this video was actually one of the first points where Pirate Software's audience... I have that. I have that. What the fuck? What the fuck? Bro, I have that same one.
Yo, is that dude your brother, Aspen? Y'all niggas closely look alike.
Holy fuck! I didn't even know that. Same room. Yeah, what the fuck? That's kind of damn. Is he in your house? I guess so. I guess so. Okay, so anyway, I forgot even what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So this video was very polarizing with Pirate Software's audience. And it was one of the big points where, like, I mean, now people don't like Thor, but, like, back then, people were very positive about him. And that video was one of the first points of difference that he had with his audience. You guys remember this?
Not understand what Stop Killing Games is. Here it is in his words.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So for those who don't understand, the Stop Killing Games initiatives
SKG
is basically we don't want single-player games to have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change. They need to be specific that they're talking about single-player games that do not need a server to support them.
No.
And as much as they want it to be about specifically games where it is a single-player game that has always online functionality, it would impact every live service game that exists. Instead of just targeting single-player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is.
No.
Stop Killing Games includes single-player games, but nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression. It's the first line on the website. Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. But the movement includes all this stuff from earlier, and he was mostly talking about the initiative.
Yes.
He didn't even get the Cliff Notes summary right. Ross is correct. This has nothing to do with just single-player only games
it's also
that require an online connection, that when the online connection is severed, you lose access to the game. They need to be more specific in their language about it being single-player, always online connectivity games. When that's just not what it's about. Like, they're not being specific about that because that is not what they are specifically targeting.
It's the most
It is about the whole practice of destroying games that consumers have already purchased and having no end-of-life plans for games that are being sunset. So, for example, The Crew. The Crew is an example everyone is going to reference and talk about because Ubisoft is still currently in a lawsuit battling against it for what happened with this game.
Yes.
I've yapped about it quite a bit, so I'm not just going to regurgitate that. I'm sure a lot of you already know the story about it. But basically, you buy The Crew, Ubisoft pulls the plug on the servers, you can't play The Crew anymore. Now it's just an old, wet dream of what once was. And they are facing a lawsuit, and while this is in the umbrella of Stop Killing Games, it is not the only thing Stop Killing Games is referencing when it comes to this practice. Pirate Software is so hung up on it being single-player games that people lose access to, when that is a component of it, but not the entire focus.
Yeah, of course, right? I mean, obviously, that's it.
Well, the short version is the initiative is about requiring publishers to have end-of-life plans for games they've sold to customers in the future. So when they shut them down, customers can continue running them without their support. So that's one thing.
And this is something that affects online games and also offline games. Or single-player games.
Thor doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But he also seems to think this is about converting multiplayer games to single-player.
Transitioning an entire multiplayer server-side game into a single...
Hello.
Hey Larry, this is Jackie Dummer at Skill Performance Group. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Hey, I just wanted to call and confirm everything is still good for your interview tomorrow at 12:30.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any questions from the information I sent you in the email?
No. I just went over the email.
Okay, awesome. All right, just give me a call once you finish your interview and let me know how it goes, okay?
Okay, I will.
Awesome, thanks. I look forward to hearing from you tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Single-player video game, which means rebalancing the entire experience around single-player, rebuilding everything in the entire game. How are you going to do that with Final Fantasy XIV? You're just going to make all the raids soloable? Imagine the day that World of Warcraft shuts down, and suddenly you have to make it a single-player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking for.
No.
Because they would have to sunset live service games as a single-player experience. The idea that suddenly you need to make...
I don't think that it was ever stated that it needed to be sunset as a single-player experience. I don't think anybody ever said that. I mean, again, like the publisher maintaining the server seems like that would be like a logical question that you would ask. But making every game single-player, I don't really see why you'd need to think about that, considering there's so many locally run servers for all kinds of games, including WoW.
Every single live service game playable single-player offline? No, dude.
Correct. No.
It was implied.
This part is more confusing than Finnegan's Wake, because nowhere in anything on Stop Killing Games has this even been like a talking point from anyone besides Pirate Software. I don't know where he pieced this puzzle together. Like I don't get it. Like if I'm gonna try and like really reach here and give like a charitable explanation for this take, maybe he's extrapolating based on the idea that if publishers have to have end-of-life plans for their games, that includes MMOs, where once the game is getting sunset, you're pulling the plug on it.
Yeah, that's
you would
what
then
he
need
means.
to turn the game over to the community in a playable state, an accessible state, like give the code to them. Thus, it'd turn it into a single-player experience, so the onus would be on the developers to rebalance their game to be a single-player experience for them. I guess. I have no idea. That still just doesn't make it...
I think also another reason why that discussion was happening is that a lot of the conversation around the Stop Killing Games devolved into single-player versus multiplayer and who can host servers and how. Like, it wasn't actually in the initiative, but after the initiative was presented, people were talking about those topics.
Any sense, but maybe that's the tree he's barking up with that thought process. I really don't know, because Stop Killing Games at no point ever says any of these multiplayer games need to be converted to single player.
Yeah, nobody said that.
That really is outlandish. And the more I think about it, like the more nonsensical it becomes, because even in Pirate Software's hypothetical fanfic there, why would the developers need to rebalance the game? They would just turn over the code to the community and just it'd be in that state. They're no longer responsible for balancing the game. That's the whole point. They're not indefinitely supporting it. they would just be responsible of leaving the game in an accessible state to the community while they would shut down the servers on their end. Like, they wouldn't need to go back through with a whole development team and, like, you know, tweak the game to be single-player compatible. It just doesn't make sense.
Well,
like,
if the thing is, if you had a community server, then the community server could do that themselves. Like, you have all kinds of, like, WoW private servers that have solo raids and all kinds of weird bullshit in them now. So, really, it's not something that the developer would really need to do, because as long as people were able to host and run their own servers, this could be done by the community for the community.
I really do not understand that one. But apparently a lot of people latched onto that talking point from Pirate Software as something that Stop Killing Games was asking for and how unreasonable it was. Which, if that's what Stop Killing Games was asking for, it would be unreasonable.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's asking for.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close to getting it.
It is vague, and because of that, it will impact.
Uh-oh.
He never has that light bulb moment. Well, he is correct in that statement. It's almost as if that's not what the initiative is asking for.
I know this part is
and this is again, this was an outcome of the dialogue around it whenever it came out. Because, like, whenever this video came out, I watched the same video myself, and a lot of people were drawing a distinction between how would this apply to single-player games versus multiplayer games. I think that's probably why he was talking about it, but, like, Ross is right that it applies to all games. And it was a dichotomy that was never actually... It was created by the community and not by the actual initiative, if that makes sense. So there was a community conversation about that difference, but the initiative never stated or explained the difference themselves.
And just reinforcing that he doesn't know what the Stop Killing Games movement is about. But I have to just show you this because it is so fascinating, because he himself literally calls out that Stop Killing Games at no point explicitly mentions single-player always-online games or anything like that. And for some reason, instead of following the breadcrumbs that would naturally lead him to the conclusion of, oh, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe, because it's absent here, that's not what this is actually about. Instead, he uses it as a criticism against the Stop Killing Games initiative entirely, saying it's just too vague, it's way too vague. The reason it is not explicitly stated there is because that is not what the whole initiative is about. It is not specific.
Well, it's also because an initiative like that doesn't, that is legally defined by a governing body. Like, basically, we're not, like, this initiative is not legal text. The initiative is something that we are effectively trying to communicate to developers, to the government, in order for them to translate this initiative into legal text. And so it's really not about the specific wording, it's about what the essence of the wording is and what the goal is what the goal they're trying to achieve is. Like, very clearly this wasn't written by a lawyer, and it would be debated between probably dozens of lawyers whenever it would be discussed. It's not a law. Yeah, exactly. Like, the reason why it's not hyper-precise is because it's not a law. It's to start the conversation. Yes, clearly.
Targeting that thing that you keep saying that it is. I don't know how that never clicked.
But those were his streams with a smaller audience. What does he say in his big YouTube video with over 1 million views that he had time to research?
If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single-player experience, and then taking away support in the future...
Yeah.
Now he's changed it again and is making up how it's about single-player games are advertised. What is he doing?
It needs to be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single-player game, but adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem.
No, that's not it at all.
This is a really strong section from Ross here, because the clips that you saw moments ago were from his stream. When he took...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a component to it, but it's not the entire thing. I mean, again, like, there would be, like, for example, the way that you would run a single-player game would be different than the way that you would run a multiplayer game. Like, for example, like giving players the code for a game would be less necessary and less important if you're just running a game like Dark Souls 1 or Hades or something like that. So like it's just simply one permutation of it. But there's really about probably 4 or 5 of different types of games.
More time to watch it and digest it, he still came back in that video misrepresenting it. Like, it never dawned on him. Like, on stream, he could write it off as, like, oh, he didn't grasp it in the moment, maybe later on he did. Well, then he made the video where he still was talking about things that are just not what Stop Killing Games was about, and this was the one that really blew up and really started to kind of dismantle the Stop Killing Games momentum.
If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms.
No, he's getting a new thing wrong now.
I think that the idea of not agreeing to certain terms is, I don't like that mindset. And the reason why I don't like the mindset is because you could make that argumentation to justify any type of consumer unfriendly practice that's ever existed. The fact is that certain things consumers should not be able to consent to because they're just simply not in the consumer's best interest. And that's why you need government and you need to have regulations. And I know some people act like regulation is some kind of evil fucking, evil spirit word. But the reality is that the computer you're using, the monitor that you're looking at, the phone that you're on, everything that you're using is a product of infinitely many Russian nesting dolls of regulations. Between distribution, merchandising, electricity, wattage, functionality, like everything. So everything like this is regulated. So the entire concept about this is about, regulation being bad, completely untrue. People, again, it's like a fish complaining about water.
Live service games then, don't agree to those terms.
Yeah.
No,
the term
he's
should
getting
never
a
be
new
there.
thing wrong now. We're not against them existing. We're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer.
Yeah.
Pirate Software then goes on to talk about like the business practice of misleading consumers into thinking that what they're buying is a product as opposed to a license to a product, which is a totally separate thing. And then he criticizes
just because they rename something doesn't mean that it's a good idea or that it's good for a consumer. Maybe this is like a fucking socialism take, but if a business practice has no upside for the customer, then I don't really think it should exist. Why should a business practice exist at all if it has no upside for the customer?
Killing Games for not being specific about that thing that he is bringing up, as opposed to what Stop Killing Games is talking about. So he's using that against them for some reason. And then Ross goes into like the license talk.
Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason.
Yeah, I think that's bullshit. They shouldn't be able to do that. If they do, they should have to give you your money back. There's somebody saying they don't have enough knowledge to understand the problem. This is about giving away the code. So this is one thing that a lot of people might not understand is that you don't need to be an expert in coding to realize that you're getting scammed. Just because somebody knows a lot about coding and they understand it better than I think Pirate Software probably understands coding better than me, Ross, or Charlie. I would assume that to be the case. But again, think about how many other things we don't know a lot about. Like, we don't know how to make a car. We don't know how to make an airplane. We don't know how to do any of this. But does that mean that we can't ask for safer cars and safer airplanes at better prices that are reasonable? No. Or medicine or something like that. So the reality is that, yes, while somebody might have more knowledge in the topic, that doesn't necessarily mean that that knowledge overrides other people's desire to be treated fairly. And I think if you applied this logic to other situations where people don't have that knowledge in, it would become immediately true that that's the case.
Sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be...
And that's the thing, is that just because you put something in your terms of service, the terms of service does not override the law.
Taken off the table entirely.
Yeah, it's not like you can just like that cancels it out.
Forget video games.
That's not how it works.
If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years, when you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends.
Yes.
The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those.
He's exactly right. That is a huge problem. Now, Pirate Software is correct here about these companies that will mislead consumers.
I don't think that Ross's solution to that would be sufficient, because the developer could say that the game will be live for at least 1 year, and then that could give them an out later on, and it would create the same problem. You'd need to have more inclusive language to avoid situations like that, where companies create dishonest timeframes in order to avoid this responsibility. And this is, again, this is something that the lawyers would figure out. But again, this is something that you derive from an initiative. A specific end date? Yeah.
Through this fraudulent advertising on what you're actually buying, because in a lot of cases,
just require
you don't
private service
own
support?
any of the shit that you are buying. It is pretty much a rental. You get a permission slip to access the content. That is an issue, and not making it abundantly clear to consumers.
I think that entire practice is something that should be reevaluated. A license is a construct. This is a legal construct that's created by people. This is different than ownership. Like, owning something is having it in your hand. A license is something that is theoretical. It doesn't exist in any sort of physical sense. And because of that, I think that we should really reevaluate what a license means. Why is it okay that we've turned every single product into a license that can be revoked, removed, or taken away from you with really no recourse to the customer? Like, that seems like a very imbalanced relationship in my mind. What about a driver's license? A driver's license affects other people's lives. There's a higher standard of conduct that you would require that from. And also, that's with the government. And the government can't just take your driver's license away for no reason, as far as I know. Like, you have to violate certain laws.
It's
not the same
Jesus.
thing.
That is what you are buying is a problem, and so too is the actual agreements, as Ross demonstrates with Blizzard, where it says they can just completely terminate it for no reason at all. It really does go against the basic idea of commerce entirely. Video games are in a totally different ball game,
and so are movies
when it
now
comes
too.
to that, because half the time you don't realize that you're just buying an admission ticket to a game. You're not actually buying the game. You also don't know how long that's going to last. Again, to go back to Concord, that shit lasted less
3
than
days.
a fucking, fucking rainstorm, basically. Like, there is just so many problems. So I don't know why Pirate Software would be so harsh on Stop Killing Games for not addressing specific things that he himself is bringing up.
I think the reason why Thor was so hostile towards it is because he thought that it was unfair towards developers, and Thor is a developer, and so he's taking that perspective. Like, I don't think he looked at it from the perspective of a consumer, but he looked at it instead from the perspective of a developer, which, again, that's going to be an unpopular opinion to have, because most people that consume content about video games aren't developers, they're players. The quote developer? Well, I mean, he's still assuming that perspective, right? I mean, like that. I mean, we all know that.
I
try to be fair, guys. I do.
It just
I try
doesn't
to be fair.
compute. It really is a video that did significant damage to an actually positive initiative that aimed to help consumers in the video game space. All based on his complete misrepresentation of it, which was a complete mess.
People said his perspective was wrong, even if it's from the developer. I didn't say that it was right. The majority of what he said I disagreed with even back then. You can go back and watch the video. And so this is something that I've been completely consistent with the entire time. Also, like, again, I think if a product doesn't exist in a way that's beneficial for a customer, then it shouldn't exist. Like, there are a lot of parasitic types of like contracts. Like, for example, like credit cards are a great example of this. Like, is it in the best interest of the public that the government will legally force you to pay MasterCard or Visa 30% interest? Because again, you've got to keep in mind that all of these companies and all of these rules can only really be enforced by the government. Like, the government are the ones that really make this decision, not the company. The company says this is against our terms of service, but if the government says we're just not going to enforce that, then it effectively doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? So the issue really is about the government enforcing it. It's kind of like when Nintendo sends somebody a DMCA, the DMCA doesn't come through Nintendo, it comes through the government or the patent office or copyright office of the government. So the government are really the ones that make these decisions. Or choose not to make these decisions. The companies are simply asking them to make the decisions.
Try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching
a lot of people talked about that when it came out.
Video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough. We just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out.
That's the last clip I want to show from this section on the pirate software video. It is very simply asking that when the game has reached the end of its life cycle, the publishers, developers don't want to work on it any longer.
The vagueness is key for the initiative.
Turn it over to the community to still be in a playable, accessible state so the product can still exist. There is some more nuance, obviously, to how that works, given, like, publisher developer licensing and a lot of like the code, the binary, that kind of thing. There is a lot at play.
I'm not sure if I agree that the company should have to relinquish the code. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think that might go too far. I'd really have to think about that more because there's a lot of proprietary code and things like that. That would make no sense. Yeah, I think that would be too much.
As mentioned in the beginning, most of Stop Killing Games hasn't been successful in getting change. And Ross has dedicated so much of his life to this, and it's clearly taken a big toll.
It's been a lot.
Now he's doing everything he can for this last ditch push to try and help. And there are two big things coming up that can do so.
What are
and
they?
It's what I linked at the very beginning of the at the very beginning of the video about the resources in the description. It's in regards to this.
One is for the UK to sign a government petition to bring this issue before Parliament. Though, keeping it real, I'm not terribly optimistic about this one, since the government response has been a mess by every definition. But the one that has a lot of power, so much so I think it could change the course of gaming history, is the European Citizens Initiative. Now, I said I'm approaching this like a time traveler because with the trajectory we're on, these are both going to fail. Again, this one is crazy powerful. But the hurdle we just couldn't get past was that it requires 1 million signatures from citizens of EU countries. And we've only made it just under halfway.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is that in the EU especially, it's almost a state of lawlessness regarding the practice of game destruction. Is that the vast majority of games with an online...
I feel like this is the case everywhere. Like, it's kind of like an uncharted territory. Because, like, we're just now entering into the phase of live service products going end of service, or things that you buy through a license on the internet that disappear. Like, really, it's kind of a new phenomenon, because like in 1995, for example, you would rent a VHS tape of fucking I don't know, Ben-Hur from what do you call it? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think. A Blockbuster, that's the one. And like, you would just take it and you'd take it back, right? It's very simple. It's easy to understand. Or you would buy the movie and then you could just simply watch the movie when you would want. And so now you have all these complexities, and I don't think that the law has caught up to the culture around these complexities. That's fundamentally what the problem is that the technology has advanced way faster than the law has.
Environment say they can be terminated at any time for any reason. Or Blizzard likes to say any or no reason. But according to the EU Commission, that might be a violation of Directive 93/13 EEC, which protects consumers against unfair terms in consumer contracts.
Yes.
So
See, this is again what I was saying. The idea that, oh, you signed up for this, so it's okay, that's bullshit. That's not how it works.
If that term is unfair, that means that part of the contract is null and void.
He goes on to explain how powerful that can be because of what a mess that is. Because there is so much gray area with how the video games currently operate in regards to those protections, it would be a legal headache that would require an analysis of the laws or implementation of new laws that could lead to, hopefully, an improvement.
And that's the goal. But that's not something that anybody in this video would be able to do. This would have to be defined by people that have extensive understanding of copyright and IP law. And basically, lawyers and politicians would have to come to this conclusion. The initiative is just simply to bring awareness to the issue. It's basically saying we have a problem, but it's not giving a solution.
Comes to gaming. So the big hurdle was the signatures, needing 1 million, and currently it's at like 460,000, so it doesn't reach the threshold. I've been very vocal from the very beginning about how little faith I have in petitions, but that's just from the perspective of an American. In America, petitions are more worthless than toilet paper. You're better off just writing what you want on a note to Santa Claus and shipping it to the North Pole than you are doing anything with a petition in this country.
Is there tariffs there?
I don't know how different it is in the EU. Maybe it really is this powerful there that could lead to...
I think it's very obvious that the European Union is more progressive about creating digital consumer protections. And I think that they are about probably 10 years ahead of the United States. And that's a good thing. So if it's going to happen anywhere, it will happen in the EU.
Substantial change and improvement.
And by the way, this is something that makes things better for everybody too, because as soon as this is made available and made evident to everyone, then we can all see, hey, yeah, by the way, this is actually something that's very beneficial. This is something that's great. And it also, the companies, if enough countries have laws against these types of practices, then those types of practices become non-commercially viable. And as soon as that happens, that's whenever games change for everybody.
The games and preservation and all of what
we've already talked
again. About.
I think EU does a really
Hopefully,
good job on this.
I mean, that's really all that's left for the Stop Killing Games initiative, which sucks, but that's the position that it's in, unfortunately. And I wanted to talk about it because I really want to see something change with the games industry. I've said that so many times recently, but it's in such a sorry state. I mean, I'm talking big budget AAA space. Indies, I think, are absolutely crushing it. Absolutely.
I think big budget AAA games right now are in a transitionary period. And it seems like also one of the big reasons why I think AAA gaming right now is suffering is because it's subjected to something that's very upsetting to someone who has a monopoly, which is competition. When you have Chinese developers, Korean developers, and now Indian developers, and of course, obviously, you have some European developers. European is the West, but again, I'm talking primarily about America. You have people like the Warhorse Studios that made Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or you have it's not Sandbox, it's Sand something Interactive that made Expedition 33. So that's really what I think is happening, is that you're having more of these companies come in and compete against the Sandfall. Yeah, there you go. Sandfall Interactive. You're having them compete against these traditional studios, and the traditional studios are just simply too big or too large to compete. That's what's happening
golden right now in the golden age of indie games. But overall, in the big budget games and the way the industry keeps pushing things, it sucks. So I wanted to talk about Stop Killing Games here. Hopefully things can turn around and maybe a huge W's around the corner for the Stop Killing Games initiative. We'll see. But anyway, I want to commend Ross for his hard work spearheading all of this for so long.
Ross has done a great job.
And that's really about it. See ya.
Yeah, no, I think this is definitely true, and I'm very glad to see this. I think this is it's a great thing, and I'll also link the petition so you guys can take a look at it as well, and we can get an idea of how many people are actually signing this. And so, where is it? Right here. There it is. 50. Wow. So now it's actually, I guess it's achieved a second wind with this new conversation about it. And there's the thing right there. If you're a European citizen and you care about this this issue, again, the solutions provided by Stop Killing Games might not necessarily be what the most reasonable and the best solutions could be, but at the same time, it's something that, you know, at least is a good start. Well, anyway, thanks for time for telling people, and obviously, you know, Ross responded, takes time for telling people about this, or anyone didn't want to watch the video about it. We require EU publishers to having end-of-life plans for the company, and I think Pirate Software responded to this on Twitter, didn't he? Been reading through all the posts against me and my stance against Stop Killing Games initiative. Tons of people calling me a liar, that I misrepresented the initiative. Also, lots of content creators dogpiling to get their pound of flesh. So let's dig into what I said. I put out 2 videos. Monetization on these videos is disabled, so it's not a ploy to increase revenue. In the first video, I go through what an initiative is, how it's not a law, and how it's starting the entire process. Bring up the crew. Okay, so I also harshly critique Ross Scott's wording in the videos because they disparage the lawmaking process and the lawmakers, which doesn't benefit players or movement in any way. Sure, that's fine. Now, I think this is all kind of beside the point, but sure. I mean, you're going to have a million debates and arguments about like what the right way to say things is. I can see why Pirate Software said this. Other people could see it as tone policing. It's really not relevant. And so let's just move past this. Talk about potential scenarios where a studio could be abused if it was implemented as written. Yeah, sure, right, and that's and again, right, it's not a law like you said earlier, so that's the case. To recap, my main issue with this initiative is that it's broad in its approach to change the industry, and the exact language of the initiative, not the FAQ, requests that all games stay in a functional, playable state. This is not feasible for all games at a technical level and could potentially restrict developers from making online-only games like MMOs. Well, I don't know if it would restrict them, right? I mean, I don't know how it would really restrict them. As long as they had an end-of-life plan that people could just run their own server of the game, then I don't really see the problem with that. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. Then don't make games. And also, like, by the way, I mean, maybe there are some things that shouldn't exist in a certain way because, you know, it's just not something that's good for the consumer, right? I mean, I think that's the main thing. And let's go back over here. Thor ignores private servers, the irony. Well, private servers, and here's the thing with private servers, is that how do you handle, like in my opinion, this is the way that I see things, okay? And I'm talking about this ideologically, is that when when you make a game and you cease to provide service for that game is now effectively abandonware. There's no way that a consumer can produce or play this game themselves. And I think in the case of abandonware, I think it's totally morally and ethically justified to recreate abandonware on your own. Because again, you're not taking money away from the publisher or the developer. The IP still applies. I don't care about that. I'm talking about the way I think it should be. Like, I think IP law in the U.S. is overly restrictive. I think it's way too restrictive. So I'm talking about the way that I think that it should be. I don't care how it is. I'm thinking about what is ethical in my view. I think that if you sell somebody something and you are selling this as like a product, and then the product ceases to function, the person should either receive their money back or they should have a tool to continue gaining the value out of that product. I think that's just fair. That's it. And like, again, like you don't need to, like, it's not about the law, it's not about copyright, it's not about anything else. It's just simply about very, very simple ethics and what is fair. And that's the way I see it. That's what I think is fair. And obviously, I think that really kind of depends on, like, you know, who you ask or whatever, but that's generally what my viewpoint on it is. That's called a guarantee policy? Yeah, exactly. Copyright's long, you should lose copyright if you don't provide the service anymore. It's ethical? Yeah. I think so too. And you could even have, like, I would be willing to compromise with a grace period. I would be willing to compromise with them, you know, ensuring that the service will be back up within a period of time if they're making a remaster of it or something like that. Like, there are, and again, this is something that they have to figure out legally, because this is very complicated and very prickly legally. Of course it is. But I think that at its core essence, this is something that I support. For this, the games they're publishing are all playable offline anyway, because they're gameplay loops and are only based on the interplay interaction. Oh, this is about Thor and what he's doing. He's working. I didn't like Blizzard. I was working at Blizzard. Okay. I've been working with a discourse about it on stream. I never took my videos down, and I have not discussed the initiative in the 10 months it's been since they released the videos. So yeah, for those who scream he's doubling down, yes, I damn well am. I don't give a shit about this initiative and what it means for games developers and players in the future. To finish out, I do give a shit. I misread, excuse me. Just because I don't support this doesn't mean you should blindly follow me and the pretty words on the internet. Yeah, just look it up and figure it out for yourself. And so requires publishers to sell or licensed video games, customers, European Union, to leave said video games in a functional state, a playable state. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of extrapolation that's going to go into this, and a lot of assumptions that need to go into this. Either turn the IP over, customers shouldn't be able to make, sells the product. Like, this is, like, I would say this for sure. Not for sure, but I'm pretty confident about it. I think that if you're selling a game and you stop providing that game, and then somebody recreates that game not from your code, but they just reverse engineer it and they recreate it on their own, I don't really see that as a problem. Now, but there's a lot of complexities to this. Like, for example, like, let's say it's Super Mario, okay? Like, there's a Super Mario game. It's not, well, like, let's say it is. It's still IP theft, right? And so if you have a game and it's using certain IP, and then that IP is still held by the developer because of different games that they have that they're currently doing, that makes the, like, do you see how this makes things complicated? This does, it does very much make things complicated. And this is why you need a bunch of lawyers and people to, like, really figure out, like, what the right option for this is. And in my opinion, I think the first step is doing this for single-player games, right? And I know people are like, oh, that's what Thor said, that's not what it's about. I understand that. But I think that the first, cleanest, easiest, basically bottom of the totem pole, easiest solution is games that can be playable offline should be made to be playable offline. Like MMOs, that's like the last boss. Let's worry about the trash mobs first. That's what makes sense to me. That's the first hurdle. Yeah, exactly. That's why you need to be specific. Well, the problem is that an initiative like this is not about being specific. It's about identifying a problem, and then it's presented to lawmakers, and then lawmakers are specific in how they address the problem. It's not up to the initiative to be hyper-specific and use legal terms in order to explain this. Basically, they're not responsible for when solving the problem, but they are responsible for identifying it. And that's basically it. Suck to Charlie and Justin Hayes. You're mad at me for being a dick to Ross. I'm sorry for that. Developer side has been constant battle with people online for a decade. Online only. Movements like this showcase how little the general public understands about game development, modern gaming architecture, and online games as a whole. Functional, playable state. Sunsetting has already met with responses diminishing the effort needed to do that. It's not a simple hurdle to overcome, which is why I don't like the initiative. Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, and this is the thing, is that it's very obvious that this is a problem that video games have right now. And I think that this problem isn't really exclusive to video games. I think that it's true with all types of digital media. And right now we're in a very weird transitionary period where the world at large doesn't know what owning digital media, what the world doesn't know what digital ownership means yet. People think that they have the solution with blockchain. Other people think that they have the solution with just regular licenses, and other people think that they have the solution with physical media. But right now, the idea of what is ownership in the digital age is up for debate. And nobody has a definitive answer for this. Now, this is a problem that I think everybody agrees with, but that's it. You have to admit Pirate was misrepresenting. He was. Undoubtedly, he was misrepresenting it. Pirate attacked a guy's initiative based on points Ross never made, then doubled down on it. That's the issue. Yeah, I think it's fair to criticize that. I mean, sure. Yeah, and I support the initiative. So, I mean, obviously there's disagreements and differences, but obviously those differences and those disagreements are stated, right? So it's like, that's, yeah, for sure, definitely. I'm more personally concerned about user authentication. There has to be a source of truth for who owns the account. Do they continue to host the user database in the authentication server, or should everybody lose their data? It's not impossible. It's just not super simple. I think that the solution to that would probably be that at the end of service, the data would be transferred to a local account, and then it could be uploaded to a community server. So basically, at end of service, all of that user data is then communicated to the player. Like that in my mind, like, so how would you solve that problem? That would be my first draft of how to do it. Now, maybe that's not the right option, but like that would be like, if you're asking me right off the top of my head, like, how would you solve it? That would be how I'd solve it. How is digital ownership up for debate? Wouldn't the logic of physical ownership apply to digital ownership? I think so. No, because digital ownership is oftentimes not ownership, it's licensing, which is what the difference is. It's like Photoshop or something like that. That's right, James. How's your dad doing? I'm actually going to go check in just a little bit, actually. Yesterday, I called earlier today, and, you know, they said there was, you know, quote, minimal improvement with his lung, and so that's, hey, I mean, that's better than nothing, right? And so I'll probably go up there actually pretty soon here and go do that. I mean, obviously, like, it's been kind of pretty, it's been really stressful, but yeah, that's where things stand right now. And so they told him that they thought that he might be there for 5 days. I mean, in my opinion, as long as there's a number of days that he's there, I'm happy. Like, not that you know, assuming he doesn't die there, right? I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Like, that's what I'm worried about, because that's what happened to my mom. So that's what's in the back of my mind. That's what's stressing me out a lot. And so hopefully that's not what happens. I think the chances of that happening are low. They definitely exist, but they are low. Has he been checked for COPD? He does have COPD. He does. And he's 78. He's not 108, right? Like, he's not super young, and he is old, but he's not 100 years old. And so, you know, hopefully they'll be able to do whatever they can. I know you're not religious, bro, but I'm praying for your dad. I appreciate all of it, right? I mean, like, the way I look at it is I pray for my mom all the time, and I'm not religious. But I say, hey, bro, if there's a 1% chance, I've got how many 1% mounts? So, yeah, no, I do the same thing. I mean, you gotta do something, right? I mean, how else do you do? Like, what do you do? You leaving early today? Yeah, I'll be leaving early today and probably also tomorrow, and I don't know how long this is going to take, but, you know, like, he doesn't have a lot of other family here, and so, you know, it's like I've got to go over there and you know, help him and everything, and that's just what it has to be. It's got to be me. And so that's all there is to it. And so I'm going to keep trying to do my best and be online every day, and that's really what the plan is. So thank you guys all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. We had a great day today. I guess I can chill out for like 10 more minutes or so, and then I'll head out. Fuck. Please check for endocarditis. My mom died as a complication treating pneumonia. Endocatharsis? Yeah. I'll have to look and see that. Are you opposed to therapy to talk through some of this stuff? I mean, I don't think that this is a really. I don't think this is really a therapy situation. It's just simply a really stressful, hard situation. I mean, like, having like one parent in the hospital. That's really stressful. It is, especially whenever you don't have like a large family around to support. Like, I have family members, I do, but like they're all in Florida and other places in the country. It's just a shitty situation, really. That's it. This definition of a therapy situation, it's not a weak thing or anything. Yeah. Is home care possible? We'll see what happens. I think that in the future, I'm probably going to look to make sure that, I mean, because the odds are, I mean, if he gets out of the hospital from this one, he'll probably have to go back eventually, right? And so how to approach that in a better way next time, I don't know. Yeah, so one day at a time. Yeah, I'll have to figure it out. So, yeah, that's is your dad's spirit high? Whenever I first came over yesterday, like, not really. But then, you know, I think things kind of improved as I was there for a while and everything. But it's, you know, it's a lot of pressure on me, and, you know, I didn't even get home yesterday until 2 a.m. So I'm, you know, I'm really kind of spread pretty thin right now. But that's just the way it is. And still try and go live and do everything that I can. So thank you guys all very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will be back on tomorrow. All right, boys. Peace. See ya. Seems like we have a trap that was laid, and apparently some people have walked directly into it.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Ethan Klein.
Oh.
And my favorite hobby is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers. Today I invite you into my home to share my favorite pastime with you. Join me in creating generational wealth for my attorney.
Wow. Oh, jeez.
Let me tell you guys a story. About a year and a half ago, it's a big conversation called ReactGate. Yep. ReactGate was a debate going on in the streaming community about what constituted fair use. People like Hassan, XQC, and many of the large Twitch streamers would watch other creators' entire video on their stream. They would rarely add sufficient commentary or even pause the video to speak. Most egregiously, they would re-upload the entire VOD to YouTube with the same thumbnail, the same title, so that they could cannibalize traffic from the original video. Here's what Lamino had to say about this phenomenon.
I don't mind people reacting to my videos, but I do mind when they play the entirety of my video. A face cam in the corner or the occasional interruption does nothing to address that issue. My video is still being played from beginning to end in someone else's stream or video. It's neither ethical nor necessary to feature the entirety of someone else's work. Or, you know, they could do the bare minimum and ask for permission. Something that none of the major reaction channels have ever done when they've streamed or re-uploaded my videos.
We have before, actually, by the way. Oh, not with his videos. Okay, never mind. I was talking about other people. Yeah.
But to answer your question, no,
yeah, we
I don't want people to stream or re-upload.
But everybody would expect that. I'm, again, the most ethical streamer. But yes.
Upload the entirety of my videos.
Yes.
Now, understandably, this made a lot of people angry.
And
because why should these content thieves essentially get more views than the author of the video, which in a lot of cases was happening? I mean, people don't like injustice, and this just, we all see this and know it's not right. This debate culminated when XQC, one of the prime suspects, called into my show to debate me, in which case I'm sad to report that I was terribly owned. So in that regard, do you care at all about like IP or copyright? Or like the fact that it's illegal, does that matter? That it might be illegal, does that matter to you?
No.
It doesn't matter.
Well, if flat out doesn't, because...
Well, that's fair.
Watch me full screen cam, do the fucking worm, then watch your prime... Then watch your prime content.
Do it for a week. Do a week of no reaction content and see how many fucking views you get.
What is he doing?
Okay, sure.
How did I miss this? I never watched this.
I mean, that's content, man. It's original content, at least. The ultimate debate, bro.
Wait, so there's a chance that... Let me get this straight. There's a chance that a judge is going to see this footage. Now, I feel like the chance is actually pretty high.
With the worm. Oh, why
nice.
did I think of that first? I kid XQC, but he is not the one I'm suing.
That's not even the worm.
Despite my criticism, he's not a malicious infringer. But the ones I am suing, you'll see, are much worse. Now, ironically, after this debate and in the wake of this large conversation, the problem seems to have only gotten worse. You have people like Hassan Piker paving the way of fair use with what's known as chair reacts. When Hassan gets up to go to the bathroom,
Dude, the live Hassan reaction meme, and it's just the chair. I mean, it's just... Like, I understand if you have to go AFK for a minute or two. Like, it's alright, right? But, like, if you just are just gone and you're just playing a video and it's somebody else's video, like, you know, I don't know if that's really transformative. I feel like it's kind of not.
Or to eat. Or to talk to his mom.
Yeah.
Or to do whatever. Disappears for an extended period of time and leaves the video playing for his chair. Mr. Chair, they call it.
IDF had warned people to leave the area around the main airport in Sana. Then this.
I don't know why he doesn't just pause it. Because don't people want to hear what he says about the video? Like, I mean, because isn't this kind of like you saying that, like, nobody even cares about, like, me talking about this video? Like, well, really? I mean, think about it. So, because, like, for me, in my opinion, I think that, like, people want to watch me react to a video because they want to hear what I'm saying about the video. Like, that's what I would imagine. Because, like, why else would you want to watch some bald retard in the corner of the screen interrupting your video unless you wanted to hear what he had to say? So, how do you just leave the video on? I mean, again, and if it's live, I understand this. But if it's not live, then I don't see why you would do that. It doesn't even make sense to me. It kind of goes against the entire premise of, like, what a react is supposed to be for. Is that you're reacting to it, so... But am I... Like, I mean, the more that I think about this, the more insane it sounds. You can pause live, you're not... Yeah.
No
way.
This operation was also killing hostages in captivity.
The worst part about this is that he's not even suing Hassan. Hassan isn't even the worst one. Yeah. That's what's so insane.
Well, I've been seeing
the worst is that's only one video.
And it was in this setting that I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long-form, irresistible piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist? They couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published.
The fucking Apple, bro. The Apple in Eden. Oh my god.
It's not that I wanted these people to steal my video. It's that I knew they would. I knew they would watch the entire video, add little to no commentary, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion. The trap was set, and it worked even better than I imagined it would. We captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to it in its entirety immediately after it was published. Now the thing is...
Except for me, who waited multiple days. Because again, the most ethical streamer. But yeah, everybody else besides me, that's true.
There were a few people that went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement.
Yes.
For example, Denim sits here silently with nearly 50,000 live viewers.
That's a lot of people.
30 times her regular viewership.
Wow.
She's working directly with the Snark subreddit moderators to siphon views, and their intentions could...
Content, nuke, where to watch, and discussion. We've seen a lot of comments about wanting to watch the nuke without showing support for H3. Dude. Why do you do this? Like, it's just you're setting yourself up to lose. Like, it's like this is like, oh, where to steal something. Like, how do these people, do they have no sense of self-preservation at all? Do they think that, and this is what I really think that it is. I think it's privileged people that are used to getting everything that they want for their entire life, used to being catered to, pacified, placated, and served constantly for their whole life. They get held accountable one time and they collapse. There's been no accountability for this at all. Full-on complacency. No, this isn't even complacency. This is like beyond that. Complacency is not giving a fuck. This is being aggressive. It's being malicious. They're Karens. They are absolutely.
To be clear, here's an excerpt from a stickied post from the Snark subreddit.
Yes.
Hey everyone, we've seen a lot of comments about wanting to watch the nuke without showing support for H3. Here's a list of creators who've supported our sub, either by engaging with us directly or citing our post in their critique of H3. Here they're all.
I don't know why any of these people would have done that. I feel like it's such a massive fucking mistake. I don't understand at all, like, how could you possibly think that this was a good idea? Especially if you knew that Ethan hates... So, like, I mean, so you think Ethan is this greedy, awful, money-hungry demon. You also know that he hates the Snark subreddit. You intentionally antagonize him. You know that he's already been to court before and he won. What the hell is wrong with you? They're so dumb. Why would you do this?
Offering these streamers as market substitutes for my work. This
Yes.
is the cardinal sin of copyright infringement.
That's correct.
The Snark subreddit has been a frequent and persistent infringer. That's how I knew when this video came out, the Snarkers were going
Which
to...
I totally support Ethan in this, by the way. I do. If you are intentionally uploading somebody's content in order to deprive them of views as your primary goal, you are acting in a malicious way. And in my opinion, the way that I decide whether somebody is wrong or not, I look at what they're trying to do. Are you trying to hurt someone? In this circumstance, the answer is yes.
encourage, promote, and push streamers to commit copyright infringement. I should thank the Snarkers, actually. Because of their predictability, they acted like double agents for us, incriminating their favorite streamers and serving them up on a golden platter.
So it gets even better. I don't know if he includes this in the video, but he subpoenaed Reddit for the different Snark subredditors, or subredditors like the mods, for like their real life information. Bro, Ethan is actually going scorched earth on this shit. And by the way, it's completely their fault. They never, ever, ever, ever had to call CPS on him. They never had to justify it. They never had to make it. And also keep in mind, this entire problem and this entire premise is built off of the fact that Ethan didn't want to say that Hamas was a good group. That's it. Ethan did not want to automatically condemn Israel and say that Israel is the worst place ever. Because Ethan supported Palestine too. He donated to Hassan's thing. So I just want you guys to understand that this is a situation where 9 out of 10 things they are completely aligned on, but this one retarded thing that they can't let go of is enough for these people to potentially ruin their fucking life. Good for them. Screw the people that think they're untouchable. I agree with you. I do. Not radical enough? Yes. They love terrorists too much. Well, now they're getting terrorized. I'll be honest. I bet they're not having a good time today.
So, thank you, Snark. It's one thing for a subreddit to admit it's engaging in copyright infringement.
Yes.
But how do you get the streamers themselves?
Literally none of this would have happened if they didn't call CPS. Everything until that point I could totally overlook as stupid internet drama. Involve my kids and I'll fucking delete you. Honestly, any adult could not for a second blame Ethan for that. That is a crazy escalation. And not only is it an escalation, but it's completely unethical. You're misusing and weaponizing a government facility in order to fulfill out an internet beef. And this government facility is supposed to be for protecting like beaten kids.
To admit it's engaging in copyright infringement. But how do you get the streamers themselves to admit that they're stealing content?
Easy, apparently.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow.
How could you be so stupid to say this? I don't understand that. Like, I mean, even if you believe it, why would you say it? Like, there's a lot of dumb things that, like, everybody believes, but they know I shouldn't say that.
Subscribe, throw a prime if you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
So
It turns out they just do it for you. You couldn't cook up a more incriminating statement if you tried. Denim's the...
Man. And now Denims is raising money for a lawsuit, and a lot of the people that are donating are saying, I'm donating for Ethan Klein to get this money.
Queen of self-owning, you prevail again. There's one thing about copyright you should know is that you got to register it before you publish to be eligible for statutory damages and attorney's fees, which is the...
See, I actually didn't know that. I thought that you just had to publish it. I thought copyright was created on inception, but this could be an additional level of legal accountability. I wasn't aware of this.
Main biting force of
I think it's two separate levels, because I think it was changed in like 1975. But he's talking about something that's a legal resolution.
Right, infringement lawsuit. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys now. I, Ethan Klein, have registered Hassan Piker Content Nuke with the United States Library of Congress.
So he planned this entire
Some
thing
of you guys out there sweating? Even though theoretically I could sue a lot more creators and rake in millions of dollars, but the purpose of this is not financial gain.
It's not about the money. It's about sending a message.
XQC and Asmongold may have watched the entire thing, but I would never sue them just for doing that. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually, the opposite. I hope that we
this is what I think is really funny, is that obviously these people are trying to reframe this in a way that Ethan just hates reaction content, but again, they're just liars. Literally, they're actually just liars. They're just making things up and saying things that aren't true. He literally addresses this specific point, and he goes through how they are actively and intentionally foregoing every fair use protection possible.
Can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that not only makes us
also keep in mind that when people like Denims or Caseytron do this, they do very slightly draw the eye of Sauron called Disney. I don't want to have that happen. Nobody wants to have that happen. Or Sony. And the more that they do this flagrantly, without any degree of self-preservation, reasonability, or anything, the higher the probability is that all content on Twitch will suffer as a result of it because of a large-scale lawsuit. That's the big issue that I have. That's my main concern. Did you watch this yesterday? No, it came out yesterday. It's kind of insane to admit that you're abusing the legal system and punish people who you don't like selectively while admitting you don't care about the foundation of the law that you're breaking. I'm not even going to address this because you're just a retard and you're not interested in having a genuine conversation. Ethan clearly made a distinction between the groups of people that he was suing and the other people that were reacting. Explain the distinction. Now, you can say that's not a good distinction or disagree with that, but to say that he's admitting that he's doing this selectively, yes, he is doing it selectively. He's doing it based off of the people that did it the worst. The most egregious black and white defenders. Or offenders, excuse me. It's just, you're literally just, and this is the thing, these people literally just lie. And I think this is the reason why I never try to engage with people like that, is because they just lie. They say things that just aren't true. How do you deal, like, it's like the what was it, the metaphor of playing chess with a pigeon. You can't beat a pigeon in chess because they'll just walk over the board, kick over all the pieces, and say they won. You just can't win. Why would you ban them over this? Why would I want to have anybody in my chat saying stuff like that? Disagree with banning? I don't. If people disagree and they're just literally lying, making up bullshit, then why would I want to deal with that? I don't want to deal with people like that. They're annoying. They're annoying retards. They're bad faith morons that aren't even, they're just trying to push an agenda. Like, why would I do that?
Look bad, but could destroy the commentary community as we know it.
It's a retard launcher.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe, throw a prime.
The state of reaction content on Twitch is so broken, these creators feel comfortable looking right into a camera and saying outright, hey, I'm stealing this guy's content. Pay me.
I don't think it's the state of reaction content. I think it's these people think that they are genuinely untouchable. That's the reason. They have this massive ego, and they have this mindset that I actually don't think it's a meta Twitch issue. I think it's a certain subset of these people that believe that because they have the right politics, any action or anything that they do is proactively justified because they're on the right side of some social issue or some political viewpoint. That's why, for example, whenever they get called out for calling CPS on Ethan, right? Or they like rationalizing it, not necessarily promoting it, but rationalizing it. They don't even think about it, right? They're not even thinking about the consequences or anything like that. Yeah, the right side of history, exactly. CPS, Child Protective Services. It's a place in America. It's an organization in America that helps make sure that kids aren't in abusive households. And people that didn't like Ethan Klein weaponized that government agency in order to harass Ethan Klein's family and try to get his kids taken away from him. And I think that these people just think that anything, and by the way, when you criticize them for that, they say, why are you criticizing me while there's a genocide going on? Well, I'm really glad this is happening, because now how are you crying about a lawsuit whenever there's a genocide going on? This is what you fucking get.
Instead of him. This is not a healthy environment. And with people like Hassan reacting to entire TV shows on stream, my fear is that Sony or Disney comes along, sues
Fucking exactly. Just like what happened with music.
Buddy, and sets a devastating precedent that could endanger our entire field.
Yes.
Now, before I tell you who the 3 people I'm suing are, I just want to make it clear that they all met this very specific high...
You can see the difference that Ethan is creating here, right? The difference between... and I've also seen people reframing it as in Ethan is doing this because they're women. Ethan now hates women, too. Crazy.
Of criteria that I set forth earlier.
Disney's
These people
real
were
new?
not
Yeah.
targeted based on their gender, their identity, their political beliefs. All 3 are on this list. In fact, they're the only 3, as far as I could tell, that reacted to the full video.
And I would say also, like, the fact is, like, I mean, Mike from PA has said, like, way worse stuff than I think Frogan, Denims, or Caseytron have said in terms of, like, advocating for violence. But he's not the one that's getting in trouble. He's not the one that's getting sued. So you've got to think about why that is. It's about the malicious action.
Drum roll, please. Who's sweating at home, guys? Caseytron, the queen of ripping farts and bonglos.
They do musicals. They're very musical people. Are you being serious? Dog, what do you... Look! You think I made this?
Frogan, who, bless her soul, she's still rising.
Can I walk away and use the bathroom?
Is she,
Do I have
though?
permission? Can I use the bathroom, please? I'll leave it playing.
Apparently thinks Twitch is liable for me interviewing a Yemeni teenager who's only known genocide his entire life.
What happened?
And Denims. Jesus. The queen of self-owning. And my God, is she the queen of that?
It's very obvious from the way that guy's talking, he's a Sneeko fan.
Oh my God, bro, I love you. Can I give you a hug, bro?
I'm so sweaty, bro.
I love you, bro.
None of the hostages that have been released so far have said that they have been raped. The hostages.
Oh my God. Where do these people come from?
It's a public statement. You can go look at them.
The sexual assault I experienced should never happen to any human being.
This Yemeni kid is